Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon again, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Spilling Tea. I'm your host, Tiffany Daniels. We are going back to that horrible world known as the JRC, but before we do, the usual disclaimers. If you're unfamiliar with the Stop the Shocks campaign or the campaign against the troubled teen industry, you're going to find all the pertinent links right there in the description box. Please, in particular, take note of the article written by NeuroClastic, a small non for profit started by autistics for autistics. In it, they interviewed over 900 ABA professionals in regards to the Judge Rotenberg Educational Center's so called behavior modification program. The Judge Rotenberg Educational Center doesn't want you to read that article so much. They've threatened NeuroClastic with a defamation lawsuit if they did not remove it from the website. Well, folks, NeuroClastic has refused. You know the drill. Please read that article and share it on all your social media. We also have linked in there NeuroClastic's public statement regards to the defamation lawsuit threat, as well as a link to their GoFundMe. We are crowdfunding just in case the JRC ever actually does see through with their threat. Trigger warning one: when we discuss places like the Judge Rotenberg Educational Center and Agape Boarding School for Boys, you're going to hear vivid descriptions of and catch clips or surveillance footage of people with mental health issues and disabled people being tortured and abused. If you got young children present, please go ahead and utilize those headphones, all right? Number two, this channel is marked not for kids for a reason. We use profanity on occasion and we speak on dark subjects. If your child is 16 and younger and they're watching this, very obviously, parental supervision is very much advised. All right. Okay, now we're going to the response to that comment. The commenter is correct in that this rule only applies to ESDs for SIB or AB and not ESDs for other intended uses. The whole point and reason behind this initially, folks, was because it was regarding one device that was being used for a singular reason. But since the FDA opened the door and dragged all those others in, here we are. FDA explained in the proposed rule that although these products have parallels in technology and behavior modification strategy, products for other uses address different conditions or behaviors in different patient populations, and as a result, they present different benefit risk profiles. Let's also say this: those individuals who utilize the devices are full functional adults with the ability and the autonomy to advocate for themselves in regard to said devices. The students at the JRC do not share that privilege or right. Okay? Remember, we live in a world where they believe if the parent says it's okay, then it doesn't matter what the JRC does, even if it violates the kids' human rights in alphabetical order. Because the parent signed off. Parent rights. I have a right to not be tortured due to my diagnosis, Karen. As you know, every single one of those kids you have tortured barbarically for the last 4 decades. But, sorry. Go off, right? We explained, for example, that many people who exhibit SIB or AB have disabilities that present vulnerabilities, such as difficulty communicating pain and other harms caused by ESDs. Particularly when you have individuals at the JRC who, when you voice these difficulties, like in the case of Jennifer Masumba, they're going to tell you, but it's part of your contract, so you need it. We read the blogs. You remember, right? So, doesn't really help us here, does it? Although, if you were to ask me, anyone screaming no and begging for mercy should be clear communication that they do not consent. Not likely to be present in people who use ESDs for other purposes because they're in full control. They're in the driver's seat. That is difference number one. Difference number two: those devices that are mentioned that they want to use to compare oranges to a semi with 3 trailers hooked back onto it is the severity of the electricity that is being sent coursing through the veins of the individual on said device, and the fact that the patient is not control of their own device at the JRC. And no, you cannot argue around it by saying, but we have parental consent. Parental consent got you second and third degree burns. That's where your privilege ends. Or at least it should. As a So, not likely to be present in people who use ESDs for other purposes. Again, they're the ones who signed up for it, even signed a waiver in order to be having the ability to utilize it, and are in full control of the device. Therefore, it only makes sense that it's not going to affect them in the same way that the GED device does at the JRC. Come on now. Come on. And I just saw that it froze there. Sorry if you have to stare at my uplifted ugly mug for a few minutes. Can you all hear me? I keep hitting this thing, muting myself. Hopefully you can hear me. All right, back to where we were, right? As a result, individuals who exhibit self-injurious behavior or AB would bear a higher risk of injury or illness from the shock than, for example, smokers who choose to use an ESD to help quit smoking. Again, I'd like to compare the devices. You have an SIBIS machine that shocks you at just 1, 2, 3 at the highest MPa, as opposed to another device that is designed to shock you at 85 MPa. Attached to an individual who does not have control over to when they're going to be administered the shocks and for what. If just below the lethal limit doesn't grab your attention, I don't know what to say to you, but just below the lethal limit. Literally just barely underneath what we are allowed to get away with shocking a person before they're dead. Okay? This is what we're arguing here as opposed to the SIBIS machine. The argument is a joke. Smokers can immediately communicate pain to the device's controller or remove the device themselves. Exactly. Nobody at the JRC without permission is allowed to remove the device. Should they do so, they get put on the 4-point board just like Andre McCollum's did. And I got a ton of DESI reports to back me up on that one. They can communicate symptoms of other harms that may be caused by ESDs to their healthcare provider, which may lead to a discontinuation of the device use or decide to stop using the device. Exactly, that kids at the JRC have no control. They can't say, I refuse to be on this device any longer. I have been in ERs. I have second to third degree burns. I have lost feeling in this part of my legs where the electrodes have been stuck on my skin. They don't get to do that. And they get to say, but your parents signed off, so it's okay. No, it isn't, Karen. In addition, people who exhibit SIB or AB may not be able to associate cause and effect, or, as with some people with autism spectrum disorder, they may express pain atypically or not at all, at least not in the capacity some of you neurotypicals would like us to do. But I don't think it can be communicated quite as clearly as Andre communicated it, right? If you are screaming, begging for mercy, begging it for to stop, or eventually when they continue to torture you, begging for death, that is a pretty clear indicator that they are advocating that I want to not be on this device that is torturing me and burning me and screwing me up. You know, basically electrocuting me alive. All right? Yeah, their arguments fall apart. Even the FDA, who's trying to be so vague as to shoot themselves in the foot, are barely expending any effort to tear apart that commenter's comment in regards to the ban, because they don't get seem to understand that those students have the right to agency, autonomy, and self-determination too. In fact, one of the most important things that was impressed upon me as I was graduating high school and entering into a treatment program was to learn specifically how to learn about my own diagnosis and speak up for myself as a vital part of any treatment program. In spite of the fact that at the time when they were emphasizing this, I was still a minor. You don't see that same sort of attitude at the JRC. And the reason is, folks, it's very simple. Those people they put on those torture devices, they don't believe have any sense of self, have any rights to autonomy or self determination because they don't think that we are capable of it. That's why they believe that parental consent should override everything, because they don't believe that the individual student that they took in has any agency or autonomy. That only the parents' wants and needs and that of the larger neurotypical society matter, and not ours. Never ours. Which, again, major bullet point in regards to the larger issues in the medical model in regards to treatment with any neurodivergent or otherwise developmentally disabled diagnosis. But again, that's a subject for another day, and we're going to go ahead and close on that. We don't get very many views on this channel. The few views that we do get do tend to get removed from time to time. So, folks, please don't forget to hit the like button, hit subscribe, and don't forget to hit those comments. I do appreciate your time. As always, we here at Spilling Tea hope you have a good one. I'll see you in a few minutes.